Now, what can happen with fish is when fish are stressed, the other fish attack the fish that's stressed. Because when a fish is stressed, then they're... Now, fish keeping is 50% about water quality and 50% about nutrients. So, most fish food is processed crap in a can. I am very, very biased to two foods. One is New Life Spectrum's probiotics. The reason why I love New Life Spectrum's probiotics is that the probiotic bacteria is very good for the fish's digestion, but when the fish poo, the bacteria in the poo eats the poo. So why wouldn't you use it? The other food I love is Danichi. And the reason why I love Danichi color is I just find it makes my fish so healthy and so colorful. And I'll feed about 90%, I'll say 80% probiotics and about 20% Danichi. So Danichi is slow cooked. It's a raw state food. It is not processed. It is not pressure cooked. There's no caking agents. It's not completely digestible. It's really just a next level food. So once again, they are the two foods that I highly recommend for all fish. That is how I get the best results. That is not saying they're the only foods on earth. They're just the ones that I love the best. So once again, half of your fish keeping is fish food. You can't believe how often I do consultations when I go to someone's house and everything looks okay and I test the water and it's terrible. And then I look in the cupboard and sure enough, there's good quality food. Then I go to the very next house. All the fish are dying. I test the water. It's not that bad. But all the fish are dying. And I look in the cupboard and sure enough, there's a whole bunch of processed crap. So it is my opinion, get yourself probiotics from New Life Spectrum and Danichi. If you've got other foods, by all means, just wiggle them into the diet. But don't make them a main food. Think of it as TV dinner or 2-minute noodles. Processed crap. Now the next thing, anytime you buy new fish, don't add food at all for 2 days. No food for 2 days, any new fish, as a rule. Next thing is I tend to feed my fish about 5 times a week. That is not every day. At least a couple of times a week, I feed them nothing. And then I will tend to feed them what they eat in 30 seconds. So that means not one speck of food after 30 seconds. I don't want to see one single bit of food left in the tank. If you're going to put in a wafer for your catfish, because your catfish is skinny, that's okay. But I want one wafer, not 14 of them. So I want the food, what they eat in 30 seconds, 5 times a week, that's it. The other thing is if you feed a good quality food, you don't have to feed much. If you feed a crap quality food, you've got to feed a lot more. And you get a lot more crap. So feeding is everything. The other thing that makes the most difference is you've got to look at your fish. So the thing that makes the big difference is the fish. If the fish are a little bit skinny, then whatever you're doing, you have to do more. If your fish are a bit fat, whatever you're doing, you have to do less. But basically, you give it a month before you realize whether it's made any difference. So you cut it down a little bit. And if they thinned out a little bit over the last month, that's cool. If they fattened up a little bit over the month, that's cool. But you just change it very slowly. And when you bring a sample of water in to see us, we'll be able to pick it out. Hey, your fish are a bit skinny, so maybe feed a bit more. And that doesn't mean you go home and tip half the bloody jar of food in. That just means you feed tiny little bit more. So feeding is half of fish keeping. Now we've come across this other little tank full of platies and guppies that are very happily breeding away. And if you look in the substrate, you're seeing various shells and little bits of coral. Now the advantage of those little shells and bits of coral is that they mean that you're probably never going to have a 0 kH and your water's probably never going to go acid. So while that's not ideal for plants and it's not ideal for any acidic water fish, it is a great thing to consider, particularly if you're going to keep alkaline water fish like these live bearers. So here we've got a lovely pair of platies in the back. The big fat one with the anal fin at the bottom is the female, and then the thinner one on that side is the male. And if you look underneath, he's got a little specialized anal fin, like a little ding-dong for fertilizing the female. So in this case, the female's the one on the top and the male's the one on the bottom. And there's some very happy babies bouncing around in this tank. And this tank has been a complete success. And once again, water quality and nutrients are everything. So if we give them some nice good quality food, make sure this filter is not cleaned in water from the tap. For future reference, we want to clean the water in the water from the filter. And all this gravel would have lots of good bacteria in it. And the other thing is a lot of these fish are very small, which means they don't have a lot of biological load. Big fish produce a lot more biological load than little fish. But this tank's doing very well. It looks very good. If you're adding water to this aquarium, the best way to do it is get yourself a 10-litre bucket. Every bucket, add a few drops of the water ager, a teaspoon of KH, and a teaspoon of GH. It's better if they're putting the tank, not the bucket. But for every bucket, let's say you add the water. If you're just doing a top up, you're going to get the bucket, tiny squirt of that, teaspoon of that, chuck it in. If you're doing a water change, then for every bucket that you've got out, you're going to put a teaspoon of that in. Now, ultimately, it is the KH and GH which governs that. Now, we do have little test strips down there that we can use to give that a guide. And then I do really recommend that every time that you come down to Majestic Aquariums, bring a sample of water and a little video of the tank. And it's good to do that every 3 months for no reason. So this house has 2 tanks in it, so I'd be coming down with 2 videos and 2 samples of water. Do it once a quarter just to check on the tank, even if there's nothing wrong. So there's 2 ways of putting water in this tank. One is just get the hose and put it in. If you're only adding a little bit, that's totally okay to do that. But as the water's going up, you want to add water ager for the tank every few centimeters. Don't go doing a big water change, put the hose in, fill it up, then add the water ager later, otherwise you've already chlorine bathed the tank. If you put some water ager in for the tank every few centimeters, then you'll be okay. If you want to be safe, treat the bucket first. The water ager takes about 3 seconds to work. Tip it in, and Bob's your mum's. If we had ammonia or nitrite in this aquarium, what we'd be wanting to do is put a 5 times dose of water ager in every day, and that will detox the ammonia and nitrite. But in this case, the ammonia and nitrite has not really been the problem. It's been low KH, pH, and GH. So overdosing water ager isn't going to help us, because so far, the water that's been going into this aquarium does have or has had water ager in it.